Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm going to give us until 10 to have the last few people join, and then we'll get started. All right, let's get started. Thank you all for joining. I hope you are staying warm out there. It's 13 degrees according to my computer. So one of the benefits of this being a webinar is that we can all be cozy. So my name is Kate Marling. I'm the Post-Secondary Transitions Manager for the Indiana Commission for Higher Education, and I'm going to be talking today about student success coaching and how it is increasing degree completion for 21st century scholars. I'm joined today by my colleague Victoria, who's in the room with me, and she will be monitoring the chat, and we can take questions at the end. Right. Okay, so we will be discussing the 21st Century Scholars Program, going over some brief history, discussing our auto enrollment initiative, the various requirements for both high school and college scholars, 21st Century Scholars data and what we do with it, the appeals process and how our success coaches are able to support in that, and then the College Success Program grant. All right, so I'd like to start with this roadmap. This is a K-12 and post-secondary transition strategy roadmap. It really illustrates the initiatives and programs we have that are actively getting students to plan, think, and prepare for getting to college. We have our auto enrollment 21st Century Scholars Initiative sort of at the start for our 7th and 8th graders, and then we sort of end with our pre-admissions initiative, which are our two newest initiatives on this pathway. All right, so let's get into the 21st Century Scholars history and requirements. So the 21st Century Scholars Program is now 34, almost 35 years old. It was created in 1990, and it's designed to provide financial and college readiness support for Indiana's financially eligible students. The first 21st Century Scholar cohort was enrolled in 1995. So then we jump a little bit ahead where we actually get into the activities and the requirements. In 2011, we developed the Scholar Success Program, which helps guide students through activities that engage them in thinking and preparing for college. In 2012, the Scholar Course program was launched. Then in 2013, the credit completion requirements for all state financial aid, including the 21st Century Scholarship, was created. Jumping to 2014, there were 25 campuses that had college success coaches deployed. 2015 was that cohort was the first cohort who was actually required to graduate with a high school GPA of a 2.5 or higher. Our 2017 cohort was the first high school class required to complete the Scholar Success Program activities, graduate with a core 40 and a 2.5 GPA. So we're obviously now in 2024. So we've been able to collect some data over these years with these new requirements, and overall across all races and ethnicities, scholars are more likely to go to college than their low-income peers. But we were still having less than half of financially eligible students enroll in the program. Getting into the 21st Century Scholars requirements for high schoolers to be enrolled in the program, students need to be U.S. citizens or eligible non-citizens. They need to be Indiana residents. They need to complete the 12 Scholar Success Program activities while in high school. They need to earn at least a core 40 diploma and a 2.5 cumulative GPA, graduate from an eligible Indiana institution or high school. And then they need to matriculate at least 1 year after graduating. So, for example, the cohort of 2025 has until the 26-27 academic year to enroll. Right, let's get into automatic enrollment. So this is a fairly new initiative. The House Enrolled Act 1449 in 2023 requires the Indiana Commission for Higher Education to partner with the Indiana Department of Education to identify and automatically enroll eligible students to the 21st Century Scholars Program. Automatically enrolling all income eligible students into the program just removes that application barrier that students were facing. We found that often if students were submitting paper applications, they were not getting to us or not being put in, or applications were just not being submitted correctly. So we really wanted to remove that barrier. The commission's also required to mail letters to families of students who have been automatically enrolled with the option to opt out if needed. We automatically enroll students, I believe 3 times a year to make sure we catch all students in the 7th and 8th grade who may either transfer into the state, become eligible for free and reduced lunch during that 7th or 8th grade period. So we do that several times a year and make sure that we send out letters so they're aware of that. They do still need to register for ScholarTrack accounts and, of course, complete all of the activities, but this ensures that we're catching as many eligible students as possible and getting them enrolled during that 7th and 8th grade period. Before launching auto enrollment, we had paper applications for the 21st Century Scholarship that were required to be submitted in the 7th or 8th grade. We are now requiring students who potentially still believe they're eligible, but are not on free and reduced lunch and not being automatically enrolled to submit an online application, so they're still getting into our system. Um, but Basically, auto enrollment has significantly increased the number of students getting enrolled. So we can now focus our efforts less on trying to enroll students and more on the actual activities and making sure they're getting into Scholar Track and completing these before they graduate so they can remain eligible. All right, I'm going to throw some numbers out there just to give you a sense of what this initiative has achieved. So, prior to auto enrollment, our cohorts were typically about 16,000 to 19,000 students. But in our first year of 2023, we were able to automatically enroll 46,000 or over 46,000 students in that 27 cohort. Who will be coming into the pipeline in the next few years. And this current year, our second year of automatic enrollment, the cohorts of 28 and 2029 were 50,000 and 44,000 students. So significantly increasing our numbers um, and making sure that we are catching as many people as possible. All right. So some college requirements. So once they have met all of the high school 12 requirements, they met the GPA, they are enrolling in college. They still do need to meet the renewal requirements each year that they are in college. So they are required to file the FAFSA by April 15th each year. They need to be enrolled full time, which full time is 12 credits each semester, but they do need to earn minimum of 30 credits in an academic year. So we do recommend 15 credits each semester. They need to maintain satisfactory academic progress. And if for some reason they're unable to meet any of these requirements, we do have an appeals process, which our student success coaches and outreach coordinators frequently help students with. Oop, there we go. So a little bit on financial means testing. So students who are auto-enrolled do not have to go through that initial income verification to be enrolled in the program. Anyone who is not automatically enrolled who just submits an application does still need to go through that process. But we have the financial means test that senior year of high school when they're submitting the FAFSA before they get into college to determine if they are still financially eligible for the program. Um, this used to be required each year that a student was in college, but now it is only that one time. So as long as they are within threshold of that financial means test, they are guaranteed the 4 years of the award. Of course, subject to renewal requirement. If they are unfortunately over that threshold, they will still receive that one-time award of $2,500. Um, the financial means test is based on the FAFSA information, so the FAFSA's priority deadline of April 15th still needs to be met. We have more information about the actual thresholds in flyers on our Learn More Indiana website and our materials library. Those get updated as new cohorts come into the system. Okay. I mentioned earlier a little bit about appeals. Our student success coaches or scholar success coaches assist with these. We have an appeals committee here at the commission that reviews them. But if you are someone who is assisting a student with submitting an appeal, it's good to sort of have an idea of what the accepted extenuating circumstances generally are. Um, these appeals will be submitted by the student or a parent in the Scholar Track account. And there are a number of reasons that students can submit an appeal. The most common, especially at the college level, are students not being able to meet that credit completion requirement, students missing the FAFSA deadline of April 15th, or they're just not able to complete the Scholar Success Program activities. That's usually only typically the freshmen who will be having those issues with the SSPs, but they do have until December 31st of their freshman year of college to complete those. So hopefully they're getting those done at least by then. Generally, uh, an extenuating circumstance that is accepted is death of an immediate family member. An immediate family member is defined as a student's spouse, child, parent, guardian, grandparent, or sibling. A serious illness of the student themselves, or again, that immediate family member. a student being in active duty military service, pregnancy or birth of a child. And then we do have the sort of catch all of extenuating circumstances, which is defined as an event where a student had no control, ability to monitor, or have reasonable knowledge of something that occurred during that time. That can be a little tricky just to figure out what an extenuating circumstance is. I've definitely seen some really interesting interpretations of that. But generally, I like to give the example of like if a student had a house fire, lost all of their things, but nobody was thankfully uh, killed or injured in that, and so the only documentation they would have would be of that fire. That would be an example of an extenuating circumstance that obviously was outside of their control. All right. Students are also able to appeal the high school GPA and diploma type, as well as the FAFSA deadline. Um, Obviously there does need to be extenuating circumstances. Not knowing about the deadline, unfortunately, is not an extenuating circumstance, but typical documentation that we receive for all of those would be if a student had an IEP. We receive and can accept death certificates, obituaries, doctor's notes, that kind of a thing. So documentation is really important. And the appeals committee is really great about sending messages to students if they have just not provided anything, that we can work with giving examples and giving them options of things they can submit if they have that documentation. All right, appeals that we can't consider at the commission. We can't hear appeals about decisions made by the student's college or the U.S. Department of Education. Students should direct those issues with entities outside of us. For example, some more that we cannot hear are like the dependency status. If a student is listed as independent on the FAFSA, their award might be put on hold, and they just need to get that hold resolved with their financial aid department at the institution. We can't hear any appeals about the student aid index, which was previously EFC. The satisfactory academic progress requirement that is reported, SAP is met or not met, is reported by the institution, and a SAP appeal has to go through the institution themselves. And then we can't hear anything about the default of a student or a federal student loan or overpayment of a federal grant. Okay, let's get into the data that we look at and how we use it. So we track a number of things at the commission. We have our various dashboards, which are on our CHE website. We have our Hope Agenda dashboard, which recently came out, credit completion dashboard, enrollment and degree information dashboard, and more recently our FAFSA dashboard to track our FAFSA completions. We also internally track, especially my team and the Marcoms team, tracks SSP completion by region. We look at schools, the GPAs, the diploma types of students to see where the potential barriers are for students if there are any specific SSP or Scholar Success Program completion activity issues. This tracking of this by our team and the marketing communications team really allows us to tailor our communication strategies to students, um, just to sort of be an extra messaging to our students. So we're assisting our outreach coordinators with that. We're assisting the counselors in getting that information into the students' inboxes. So what do we do with it? Like I said, we do a lot of messaging. We have email reminders to all the various grades about the Scholar Success Program activities, what they haven't done, what they still need to do, what's coming up, that kind of a thing. We do a lot of messaging about FAFSA, especially after last year. We are ramping up with all of our FAFSA emails and social media, which has been really great. We have postcards that go out to students in case they're not checking their emails. And we send out auto enrollment letters and pre-admission letters to all students and 21st century scholars, just making sure that they're aware of their options, what they're enrolled in, and what they need to do to make sure they are getting their award when they're in college. Some future hopefully campaigns that we're going to be able to do depending on the data that we're able to collect. We we're really hoping to get a re-enrollment campaign underway where we're hopefully getting some information about students who had to stop out of college or drop out of college for whatever reason who may still be eligible for the 21st Century Scholars or any financial aid, and really sort of message to them that this is still an option for them. We really want them to complete their degree. They have support. And we also are hoping to continuously update our Scholar Success Program activities, removing any barriers, increasing that completion since that is a requirement, and reevaluating the College Scholar Success Program for our college scholars. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the College Success Program grant. If any of you on the call are a recipient of this grant, welcome. You will be hearing information that you already know. But for those of you who are not, the House Enrolled Act 1001 from 2023 was a busy year, provided a grant opportunity of about $5 million to be distributed over 2 years to be used for college success programs for 21st century scholars, minority and first generation and low income students. We proposed to embed about 31, 32 college success coaches to support students and assist with academic advising, scholar track support, state aid eligibility support, FAFSA support, filing, and supporting appeals. Supporting the financial aid just in general, and then supporting the pre-admissions initiative and just the transition from uh, high school to college. So we were able to award 22 campuses. So a total of 32 coaches were able to be hired. These coaches started assisting students in the spring of 2024, right in time for the FAFSA being launched. And so they were able to hit the ground running and really assist those students at the college level and getting their FAFSA filed. This grant provided 1 to 2 coaches per campus, depending on the size, and they were embedded in the various student success offices and were able to take on caseloads of 21st century and first generation minority students to really assist them as a population. A stipulation of this grant was for those institutions who are awarded to really work on planning to retain these coaches. As we know, the cohort of 2027, it was more than doubled for 21st century scholars, and we're really hoping to get them to college and enrolled. So hopefully that pipeline will get those students enrolled and they will then have larger caseloads. So they are very much needed going forward. So I guess what is a success coach? If you are a success coach, I hope you know. But the term success coach was adopted basically to ensure that these coaches were hired and would be recognized as someone on the campus who was there to set up and help support students navigate college, achieve academic success, um, connect with the professional and career offices, and just overall personally succeed in college. They're really a bridge between the support services, financial aid, academic offices, resource offices, all of that. Sort of a kind of a one-stop shop, an initial touch point for these scholars coming into college. All the coaches were given Scholar Track specific training so that they can assist in monitoring students' eligibility for their financial aid, as well as just assist with appeals and connecting students with the financial aid departments when needed. They also obviously are on those campuses and able to partner with their institutions departments. They can access their institutions platforms so they can monitor GPAs, satisfactory academic progress, financial aid, and other information that we at this stage just don't have, so they can better track and catch at-risk students before they get to the point of losing their award. So they really holistically monitor the students. They have access to, like I said, Scholar Track. They have access to their institution's academic platform, alert systems, whatever those may be. They have, direct contacts with the financial aid departments at those schools. Um, And they know the resources of their campus better than anyone, and their student supporting departments, so they have connections with their counselors and the food pantries and the accessibility services, all of that. So they're really helpful in catching those early warning signs that we at the stages don't receive. So they can see flags from professors if a student is not attending. They can check on, midterm grades potentially, or engagement data if that's collected. They can see enrollment and credit data well before we receive it, because we get those updates at the end of the semester. And while we can message to a student saying, "Hey, it looks like you may not be meeting the 30 credit requirement," please just remember that that is a requirement. The coaches are really at the campuses able to say, "Hey, looks like you withdrew from a class like last week. Let's talk about that. You have a requirement to maintain your award." So it's a really helpful position on campus. And can be very beneficial to catching students before it's too late. They're also able to engage those students not only just through email outreach or social media. They're able to connect with those students one-on-one, through one-on-one meetings, but also through a variety of different events. Um, they can sort of see where their population needs the most support, and plan accordingly. There's been leadership and professional development programs that I've seen, engaging in career planning, resume building, workshops, developing skills and financial literacy, and just developing the 21st century scholar first generation minority student communities on their campus, and being that touch point and assisting. They've also, I've had the opportunity to visit all of these campuses and meet with them, and they've been telling me great things about their workshops. They have a ton of FAFSA workshop, mental health, career resource workshops, all of these great things they've been able to do over the past year. Um, and they've also been able to lead and target orientation and summer bridge programs, just to sort of be that touch point for the freshmen coming in, letting them know that they are a resource on campus and making sure that they are coming in prepared and eligible for their awards. And like I said before, they are great at assisting with appeals and making sure that they're um, there for the student. All right. So the success coaches, they're wrapping up their first year. So we're about to get into our second year of this grant. And though they did all start in the spring, their campuses all reported that they were showing positive results, which I'm sure will only increase now that they're able to establish those connections over a full academic year. But all of the institutions who reported FAFSA completion data for those targeted populations reported well over the statewide goal of 60%, many achieving 90% completion rates of those populations they were working with. They reported retention for those targeted populations. The cohort of 23, potentially in 24, ranged from about 60 to 90%, depending on the campus. And many of the institutions provided information about the various events that they were able to host just because they had this extra person on campus now. So, really having a dedicated 21st century scholar and first generation success coach really allowed the expansion of those programs, of those events, of their social media presence, tabling events and touch points at orientation, and just the ability to build community on the campus. I've also seen some really fabulous work done with just improving the way that they track students, the way that they're collecting information. Shout out to Indiana University for really working on and developing systems that better track those students, so they can really target those at risk of losing their award. So overall, I am really excited for this new year, and hope that the student success coaches are able to just expand what they're doing and be really great case studies for any institution thinking about implementing student success coaching for specific populations, or all students. Um, so yeah, and I think good. So Victoria, if you let me know if there are any questions, I can start answering those.
Yeah, we have one.
Cool.
How clearly are students' families informed of the one-time award at the secondary level?
Yeah, so they should. be receiving that information both from their outreach coordinators, us on our websites. I'll have to check with marketing and communications to see if we do a specific outreach on that. I think it's typically just when we inform students of the requirements, um, and of that financial means test, it is uh, stated on there, that if they are over the threshold, that they would receive that one-time award.
Now, the next question we have are there any intentions to use the new career coaching dollars to support expanding 21st century scholars coaching to career coaching?
That's a good question. Career coaching is not my area. I believe that we are working on at least having support. So the career coaching in Scholar Trek, the college level is going to be required, I believe, in the first freshman year and then the third years that they'll have to do these career coaching meetings. So we'll be working on figuring out how to best support those scholars and making sure that they're aware that that is or students making sure that they're aware that that's a requirement. I'm not sure about the dollars aspect of that question.
Can you re-clarify what means testing means and when it's checked?
Sure. So let me see if I can go back to this slide. Okay, so financial means testing, we have a threshold. Basically, we determine whether a student is still eligible because this is a means-based award. So on our website, we'll have a chart each year. It's subject to change based on uh, the varying thresholds. So it might be different from 2015 to 2016, but it's on the website. And so that's based on the SAI that we received from the FAFSA. If they're over that threshold, and they're no longer eligible, that is only tested at that point of filing that FAFSA their senior year, when they're going to enroll in the following year. So that's only tested once. And typically, if you look at that chart, which is on our Learn More Indiana website, typically most students, especially if they're auto-enrolled, continue to be eligible all the way through.
Next question for
Yep.
you. What if a student earns less than 30 credits but are in good standing with university? And are they automatically disenrolled? They say, let's say they have 0 credits in the bank.
Oh, okay. So students are required to earn 30 credits each academic year. If they do not earn that 30 credits, they're not they're not unenrolled from the program. They're just not eligible for renewal that next year, so they can either appeal, if there are extenuating circumstance, or they do have the option to basically earn back the award by completing a full academic year, meeting all of those requirements to then be eligible in the next academic year. Typically, we see if a student is less than 30, they're still within that range of being above 24 credit hours. So they're typically pushed to the Franco Banning grant. So there is some funding for them in that year that they're trying to earn back the award, but they can always earn back the award or appeal. Um, and the 0 credits in the credit bank, I didn't mention the credit bank in this presentation, but just for everybody's awareness, we do have a credit bank for students. This is a bank of hours that, if a student earned AP or IB or dual credit in high school, those credit hours are then reported to us in Scholar Track, and they can use those credit hours at the end of each academic year to basically round them up to 30 if they haven't earned those hours. I didn't add that in the presentation, but thank you for adding that.
When registering for Scholar Track accounts, must the student's parents be involved?
I think we typically have those accounts be created either the end of 8th grade or early freshman. There's they need to be at least 13 years old. Typically, we prefer to have the student have their own email address. Typically, it's a school one, but we prefer it to be not a high school email just because those get cut off when they graduate. There is an option for parents to have their own account and then be approved to monitor the progress of their students, but we like to have the student have their own account and be logging in and completing their activities themselves.
And then the last question, can you clarify the difference between the career coaches funded through the career coaching grant and then the scholar track coaches and the coaches you're mentioning?
Yeah, so the coaches that I'm mentioning specifically for this grant are at the college level. They are embedded in their various student success offices. It's often a different name for each campus, but they are working for the institution. They're an employee of the institution, and they're different than a career coach. They work with potentially their various departments, but they are not career coaches. They're not, a wider like community employer. They are an institution success coach.
And that is all the questions in the chat.
Oh, okay. I will give everyone a little more time to type in any questions you may have. Oh, Michaela, thank you for putting that in the chat. She put in the financial means test in the chat. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. I see in the chat, is the college SSP definitely returning at some point? We are in discussions about the college scholar success program activities. They are in code, so we do have to potentially reevaluate them. But that is still being discussed and no definite decisions. But Eric, I will definitely let you know. Okay, so thank you all for attending. I'll be hanging out in here if there are any additional questions left over. But I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and the various other sessions this afternoon.